Hey gamers, welcome to Vlog Matters number 12. I want to talk a little bit about our newly released concept art for the third enemy in Project Torment. That is the Silent Siren. She's back here. I'll put a different picture right up here while I'm talking about her. This concept art is different a little bit than the other ones we did in that this one is a lot more human-esque. This one looks like a female in one part of it, kind of twisted through one side of her. Her right side going into her left, and then the left side going into the right is the side where there's like this deformality. And the concept behind this one is basically exactly what it looks like. It's this woman who has been deformed, starting to look like she's transforming into something, kind of like she's partially melting. And when I was researching the idea for this, I looked on Google or Bing or whatever, and doing this project I tend to Google search some very weird things when it comes to monster designs. I'm surprisingly lucky in that I haven't found anything really bad yet, but when I was looking for this one, I looked for melted face. Now, I got a ton of results that were just a picture of the guy from, I think it's Raiders of the Lost Ark or one of those Indiana Jones movie, where his face melts off towards the end. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen that movie. But what I found was this man from India who has a, I guess, deformality, if you would call it, where he has more kind of like, I'll put a picture up here again. I think it's probably like fatty tissue and skin and stuff, but it kind of hangs off of one side of him and it kind of hangs down. So we use that as a base inspiration for this. I sent that to the concept artist with some of this explanation as to, you know, what the rest of her looks like, what the female aspects of her look like to a degree, and where the deformality kind of goes through the body, where it kind of starts on one side and kind of goes through. Basically, if you can imagine it, it goes down across the body and into the leg. You can see it kind of takes over one arm and then kind of goes to the other one. So that concept is pretty different, and the reaction to it's been a little different. I wasn't a huge fan of not the art, but the actual concept itself. I'm really hesitant to start to cross over into that too human look. I mean, the other characters were bipedal characters, but the Swallow character was. But I don't want to get to the point where it's like, oh, that's just a human with this. It's kind of easy to say it's not as scary then. Well, the reaction I got was actually a little different. Some people said this one was actually more scary because it was closer to a human-looking creature. Which, I'm looking at the wall behind the camera, and I have a big picture of the Bubblehead nurse from Silent Hill 2. And if you look at that character, it's basically the face is deformed, but the rest of the body isn't really deformed. And then the animations are quite a bit different than how most people tend to walk and stuff. So that kind of lends it, you know, turns it a little different. But if you look at that character by itself, it's basically a human with this. But those characters are still horribly creepy in that game. And I think it's because, like, I tend to think that there's a horror version of the Uncanny Valley, and it's not uncanny to the point where you're like, oh, there's something wrong with that. You know what's wrong with it, but it sticks with you because you are in that valley of it being similar. And that's kind of why our other characters too have this humanoid aspect to them, that there's a part of the human there in the creature somewhere. And I think that's a really good line to kind of straddle, but it's a dangerous one, because if you go too far one way, too far human, it's not scary. It tends to look cheesy. Too far the other way, and it's really unrealistic. And when it becomes very unrealistic, in my mind, it gets closer to those immediate jump scares just in the fact that you're initially shocked, but it doesn't stick with you for a very long time. And that's probably just a personal opinion on that, but I think it's more disturbing to see something that, as you see other things, it reminds you of that. So as you see other, let's say for the bubblehead nurse, you see other nurses, you think, oh man, I was playing this game last night that had those bubblehead nurses, and now one of these nurses might have a bubblehead or something. There's some kind of tie between your brain, what you see in the game, and what you can relate it to outside of the game. And I think that relationship is something that the developer, like us, or like probably Team Silent did when they did Silent Hill 2, was a conscious thought. How can we make the player relate to the horror? And that's really pretty interesting to me. There's not a lot of stuff in the game where you're like, oh, I'm gonna build these stairs because a player can relate to these stairs to the stairs they have in their home. Well, you build stairs because players know that they go upstairs and it goes up to a floor or down a floor or something. But you don't build them to increase the horror. I mean, I guess with stairs you could go down into a basement and then it would be pretty terrifying. But that's a little. I think stairs are a bad example. Let's say walls. Walls are walls. But I think that's a pretty cool thing to be thinking of while I'm doing these concepts. I have a couple more enemy concepts I'd like to do or send off and have our artists do and send back. In the meantime, we're also setting up work with another artist, and as soon as I have some of that information to discuss, we'll talk about it more in this vlog. That was kind of weird, wheel. We'll talk a little bit more about it in this vlog, and you'll see some more of it up on the website and the IndieDB and the Steam concept page. And the last thing I want to talk about in this vlog is, and I'm looking at my notes here, there was this YouTuber that I went and I looked for Silent Hill 2 videos. I'm a big fan of the Silent Hill 2, and I think there's a Silent Hill 3. It's like a development diary, it's a making of kind of thing. And I went out there to look for that and look for some other kind of horror like development diaries. And I found this guy, RagnarRox. I'm not sure if you pronounce both R's, but I'm going to say RagnarRox. And he's got this video, Silent Hill 2 or the Genius of Player Choice. And I'm going to put a link down below that you can click on after this is done and watch. And it's a really good video, but the reason I bring it up is because a lot of the points that he brought up in that video were surprisingly very similar to what is being developed in Project Torment. Not just from the fact that he's looking at Silent Hill 2, which is a big inspiration, so there are parallels between some of the story aspects and some of the development parts of it, but there's things that he touches on from a game design decision that personally I wasn't fully aware were existing in Silent Hill 2, but as I was developing Project Torment, I was putting in very similar things. And these are things that are elements of player choice that are behind the scenes that are not really shown to the player. And as you play, they affect how you play and what, in the case of Silent Hill 2, what the end outcome is. Now, Project Torment handles that stuff a little differently, and when I start doing strictly design-based vlogs, which I haven't done yet, we'll talk about what the design concepts are behind Project Torment. I like to get that stuff a little more solidified before we start talking about it, but there's definitely this sense of don't tell the player that they're changing this stuff, but try to convey it to them so they know that changing what they do will change how the game plays. So imagine going into a room, and I mean, it's different when you play a game the first time versus when you play a game later with knowledge of what the game mechanics are. So if you play a game and you walk into a room and you know, okay, I go over there and I press that button, this is going to happen. Well, what if you didn't know that and you go into the game and you press that button and something happens, but then based on what you do after it, it changes how your character acts or how the story plays out, or how your character acts in terms of maybe they're they're more reliant on something. In our case, there's a useful item that you can use that has benefits, but as you use it, there's different settings behind the scenes that could change based on your situation and completely change how the character reacts to you and how your gameplay style will morph from that. So I think that whole concept of player choice, if you watch, when you watch this video, this is the main first point he brings up, but it's in this age of games, there's a lot of choice that you're given where it's like, here's a choice, pick one of those. And then you pick this one and then it continues. Let's say like RPGs, like let's say Mass Effect or something, have that kind of style where you get this thing on the screen and the thing is a choice here and a choice here. This video does a very good job of highlighting how Silent Hill 2 doesn't do that and creates a surprising parallel with how Project Torment is being designed to not do that as well. So go check that video out. Again, this is the end of this vlog, so stick around for another few seconds and then go click that link. I'll be back in a little while and we'll talk about some more dev stuff. I think the next one we're going to talk about is funding and the concepts of funding. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, like this video, and RagnarRox will see you in the next video.